during the winter, there's a restaurant, Park Street. Park Street is very famous in Calcutta. So there's a restaurant, Park Street, called Peter Cat. And it sells excellent chilo kebab. That's rice and kebabs put together. Exceptional. If you're going to Calcutta, go to Peter Cat, try chilo kebab. Now, during winters, you'll find a queue where people are waiting for about 3 hours to get their fill, to just get a table. And again, I thought this is very stupid because I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't stand in a queue for 3 hours for a plate of whatever in the world, unless I'm very, very hungry. But then that doesn't necessarily have to be a particular dish. You look at a few actions of your own, and you realize that we do a whole lot of things to satisfy our senses. Right? So if I get to know, there's a musical story that happens in Calcutta every year. It's over 3 nights. Starts at 7:38 in the evening, finishes at about 5 o'clock in the morning. People stay up through the night listening to the music. The best of music players go there. Doberlin Music Conference in Calcutta. I do go there as well. And you would think the man has got to be crazy. Why can't he buy a cassette and listen to it, or CD and listen to it? And people are crazy. People do go in there and listen to it. You are essentially driven by your senses. And you're just trying to satisfy those senses of yours, the sensual drive. So the way it works is this. Can we go in to the next one? Michael Jackson is a classic example. Go back, man, go back. This is a classic example of somebody who was driven by sensual drive, mostly. Not to say that the other drives were not present in him, but he was driven mostly by sensual drive, right? And he ignited that sensual drive further in people. So that's how I'm using Michael Jackson here. Can we go on, ma'am? Now, this is how it is actually. So you look at yourself right in the middle. This is more like the atomic structure that you could have. I'm right in the middle of it. And I have the 4 drives around me all the time. It isn't as if any one of these vanishes at any point in time. So when you look at Gautam Buddha, it's not as if he is not, he doesn't have a favorite dish, which means he's absolutely given up on his sensual drive. It isn't that he's not attached to, okay, Gautam Buddha is an extreme example, but if I look at Mother Teresa, for example, she had a favorite dish that I know. She had her favorites amongst the sisterhood, right? And she was very particular about the money. In fact, her bankers tell me that Mother Teresa would bargain very hard about the foreign fund that would come into her account and the charges the bank would levy on her. Right? So very, very clear about the monies that was coming. So it's not as if any one of these drives die. It's just that one supersedes the other. Now for people like you and me, for us, all the 4 drives work parallelly. So when I get up in the morning and I want my green tea first thing in the morning, that's my sensual drive at work. I could have tea just like that, but I want a specific brand, a specific kind of brew, right? That's my sensual drive at work. I gather myself together and I leave for work at about 8:30 in the morning. That's a material drive at work, right? And if my daughter calls me up right in the middle of some work and says, I need to talk to you now, well, I step out. Even if it's an important meeting, I excuse myself, I step out and I say, okay, let me listen to this young lady, whatever she has to talk about. Right? That's the emotional drive at work. Right? And of course, in the course of the day, in the course of the week, month, my lifetime, I surely do a lot of things where there's no material gain, there's no sensual pleasure, there's no emotional satisfaction of whatever kind. So when you look at it from this angle, the whole thing works together. It works parallelly. Spiritual, that's the highest one. I rate it the highest because when you're working at that level, the others fall in line anyway. And the sensual drive is more akin to the animal drives that we have. It's a very basic kind of drive. The problem is this. The sensual drive, once it is satisfied, it doesn't propel you into any further action. The spiritual drive gets you further. It pushes you further. You do a lot more with it, right? So does the emotional drive. Material drive has a, what you call the law of diminishing marginal utility, right? So if I offer you incentive for doing something today, I say you get $1,000, do this month. You go out and work very hard, you get that $1,000. Second month, I say $1,000, do this. Try a little, but not as hard as you did the last time around. The third month, come back to you, you don't even respond to it. You say, it's okay. It's passé now. And that's the problem with material and sensual drive. They have limited impact, limited value. If you really have to excel in any area, or if you have to get anybody to do things for you, it has to work in the top two areas. The connect has to be much bigger, which is why a lot of us keep talking about the vision and the big goal for the leaders. Right? That's where the connect happens. It happens at a different level. Right? Can we go to the next one now? So if you look at this, when I am in a mode, when I'm in the giving mode, when I'm in the generous mode, if I'm looking at Mother Teresa on most days, then this is what her drive structure would look like. The other three are weaker now. The spiritual one is stronger, right? And this has got nothing to do with religion. This has got nothing to do with religious practice. It's not as if when I go to the church, the mosque, or the mandir, I'm high on spiritual drive. No, not necessarily. It is possible that my spiritual drive is high then, but it's not a precondition, right? The spiritual drive is more about the action, the things that you do, right? So you have a high intensity spiritual drive in those situations when you're engaging in activities which is not driven by any tangible motive.
Sir, we have left with another
Sure.
5 minutes.
Another 3 minutes and we'll be done. Sorry. Okay, so if we go and look at the other three, next one, quickly. So with the emotional drive, in my family, it works the same way, right? When I do things for purely emotional reasons, this is how it works. And with the other two as well. Material and essential. Now, there's just one last closing comment. It is up to you to, it's like working on your muscles. So when you work on your shoulder muscle, when you exercise it more and more, they're the ones that develop. The other muscles may not become as strong, which means your shoulders and biceps might look very, very strong in comparison to others. The drive that you exercise the most is the drive that is going to become predominant. And that's how it works. So the reason why Mother Teresa could do what she did was because she was exercising this drive more often compared to the other three drives. The reason that King Edward VIII found it easy to give up the throne because he was exercising his emotional drive far more often. The reason Michael Jackson went the way he did was because he was exercising his central drive much too often. And that's exactly how it works. So you would want to just maybe reflect on this one and ask yourself, which is the drive which is predominant and how do I harness? So you look at your behavior and conduct and the reason for doing whatever you're doing and you find answers. You start strengthening the one that you want to strengthen. Not necessarily that there's any right or wrong to it, but just strengthen the one that you want to strengthen. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi. Hello, good afternoon. I'm Garima Aftar. I'm into rally racing. I'm into motorsports. And I started my journey as part of Team Mahindra. And now I'm into Team Mercedes, one of the professional drivers driving for them. I'm also working in a cables manufacturing company. I'm the vice president there. Today, my topic I'm talking on is motivation and drives, why we do what we do. So, you signed up for a fitness class at the gym, so you could lose 5 pounds. You took it diligently, worked hard, lost weight, and achieved your aim. Your sister too signed up for the same fitness class, took it sparingly, went for her sessions at her whims and fancies, and then dropped the class without losing the weight. What motivated you to go to the class each time? participate in the class diligently, and lose weight? And why wasn't your sister motivated to do the same? Theories of motivation try to explain why people do the things they do. What makes one person more motivated than the next to accomplish the same goal? Where does the motivation come from? Is your reward something you can touch, or is it something you can feel inside? Oftentimes, our motivation to do something, run a marathon, read a particular book, attend church, eat dinner, depends on a specific situation. For example, eating many times happens because we are hungry. In most instances, we don't get rewarded for eating. We don't win a medal when we finish a meal at the end of the day, unless, of course, our medal is a piece of cake and we only eat the meal to get the piece of cake. Most of the time, though we eat because the body is hungry, we hope the food tastes good, but sometimes we have to eat just to survive. Sometimes we are motivated to do a task for a number of reasons, and those reasons may vary. We might run a marathon because we want to test our own limits of endurance. That feeling of accomplishment is one we have as we cross the finish line. So we can finish what we can do and when we set a mind to, no matter how hard. Before we talk about theories of motivation, we have to first understand the meaning of motivation. What exactly is motivation? Motivation is defined as the process of giving someone a reason to do something, or it is the condition of being eager to do some type of work. So when we talk about theories of motivation, we are talking about the theories behind what it is that drives us to do the things we do. Have you ever wondered what motivated the great Nelson Mandela to endure so many years in prison, and still he was the driving force behind the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa? Have you ever wondered about the motivation which drives the soldiers to willingly lay down their lives at the altar of a nation? Let's take a look at some of the theories of motivation. Drive theory, arousal theory, incentive theory, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Drive theory. The drive theory looks at motivation through the eyes of our biological needs. If our stomach grumbles because we are hungry, then what do? We eat. We may be driven by primary needs that are biological in nature, or we may be driven by learned needs. Clark Hall, who developed this theory, created the equation behavior is equal to drive into habit. Of course, not everything that we are motivated to do is based on making us feel balanced. Sometimes we eat when we aren't hungry. And obviously, we don't have a biological drive to purchase a new pair of shoes that we like. We do this because we want the shoes, or we are rewarding ourselves with the shoes for doing something else. So while the theory is a popular one, but it doesn't fit with many situations. The next is arousal theory.